The second video in the course will focus on the student edition. With all of that to cover in your classroom, it's tempting to jump right into the first chapter of A History of Western Society. However, before you do, we recommend viewing the Historical Thinking Skills Primer with your students. The primer is found after the table of contents, but before the first chapter. It is authored by David Newman and Mary Weisner-Hanks and walks students through the steps to learn and practice the historical thinking skills for AP Europe. There are multiple exercises found within the primer for you to do with your students and step-by-step instructions for working with historical thinking skills. There is also an entire section on writing about history, essential for the exam, which is now over half writing. We're now going to take a look at Chapter 20 of A History of Western Society. It is important for you to note here that the college version of this textbook is split into 2 volumes. Since the AP European History curriculum framework covers everything after 1450, you're actually using the second volume. The chapters start at Chapter 11. Chapter 20 of the text covers the revolution in energy and industry from 1780 to 1850. A few pages into each chapter, there's a timeline for that chapter. While the College Board recommends that you teach thematically, it is still important to pay attention to the chronological timeline. There is also a unified timeline in the back of the textbook. One of the things A History of Western Society is known for is its dynamic visual program. The text is littered with images, maps, and graphs to help the visual learners in your classroom. Many of these features go a step beyond being an image in a textbook. We also include analysis questions. These are easily assignable for your students. A History of Western Society also has visual features throughout the text. Living in the Past is a visual feature that you'll find once per chapter. It is meant to introduce students to the study of material culture, encourage critical analysis, and engage and inform with fascinating details about life in the past. There are extensive first-hand accounts and living in the past documents in each chapter that invite students to engage with primary sources. Living in the Past focuses on cultural history to strengthen student ability to evaluate evidence as a historian would. Each contains questions for analysis and engage their critical thinking skills. Primary sources can be found within the textbook. Each chapter has 5 visual or written documents. Evaluate the evidence questions follow each source. Great practice for the DBQ. Looking Back, Looking Ahead is located at the end of each chapter to help students pull material together and prepare for exams. This replaces the normal chapter's summary and instead provides synthesis of the chapter's main developments while connecting the event to what students will encounter in chapters to come. It is designed to show the history of process and a series of ongoing events. At the end of each chapter, there are 3 features to help your students retain what they've learned. Identify Key Terms is a listing of the most important terms for students to know. Review the Main Ideas is at the end of each section and includes review questions. The most important topics are reviewed again at the end of the chapter, making connections across each section within the chapter. Make Connections connects ideas across chapters and encourages students to think about the larger developments within history. Our next video will showcase the teacher resource materials.